The Wes Penra Papers. A Journey Through the Multiverse. The First Level of Learning. http://wespenry.com. Present and Future Challenges, PFC, Section. PFC Paper Number 2, The Remarkable Michael Lee Hill Case. By Wes Penra, Friday, May 6, 2011. 4. Bill Burns of UFO Magazine and UFO Hunters, How Much Does This Man Really Know? Michael in contact with secret military-industrial complex. Michael was pretty stunned when he noticed that something Bill Burns said to him actually became true. Was it intuition on Bill's part? Did he know something Michael didn't, or were they just conclusions from his years of experience in the UFO field? I don't know, but if I had to choose one, I'd choose the latter. This is what happened. Bill Burns predicted during the interview for History Channel UFO Hunter episode Alien Contact that we are being prepared by a behind-the-scenes secret military-industrial complex group and given a course of study to help us prepare to meet the actual ETS. To Michael, that has actually happened, he says. Michael will now share some personal correspondence between this group that was spoken of during UFO Hunters, and himself. I will present it in Michael's own words, due to that his story was given to me via email, where we all sometimes don't bother with spell and grammar check. I have adjusted this on some occasions in Michael's correspondence for the reader's convenience. Everything else is exactly as I received it from Michael. Any words added by me are within brackets. A. I was featured on UFO Hunters show episode because I am a level 5 contactee. They flew me to Boston to have my medical and blood tests done by a Harvard professor. The results of my blood test was that I have an unknown blood condition/bloodline that is not normal human blood. I had no clue what any of this bloodline stuff was about at this point. I was featured on the History Channel's UFO Hunters, hosted by Bill Burns, publisher of UFO Magazine. On the episode, the UFO Hunters decide to test my blood and the blood of another apparent contactee. We both had a unknown very rare blood anomaly/bloodline. A Harvard doctor uncovered non-normal human level elevated levels of creatine kinase, which is a very rare occurrence in just one person, let alone two. This anomaly releases massive amount of CK into blood, which in turn superoxygenates the bloodstream. You will see below what the end result is on the human body. B. A group of military-industrial complex insiders began giving me a course of study on the subject of higher physics, and a true picture of the bigger reality in which humanity finds itself in at the moment. Here is an example of an insider's information given to me regarding this blood anomaly/bloodline which the History Channel revealed. And the whole part about not having a choice just verifies the importance of your bloodline. I'm sure you've seen the movie Dune? Probably as many times as me. You know how important bloodlines were to them? You do realize that this blood anomaly is something like MITI chlorines from Star Wars? Oxygen carrying capacity in blood equals percentage potential of nervous system usage and your body's overall potential electrical capacitance ability. Whether you use the force or not, the potential is there. The Scientologists can test for this with that machine of theirs they use for auditing. A question that triggers a deep emotional response would show a much stronger reading with you than most anyone else. See, I then had my life infiltrated with Black Ops agents, 3 that I know of. One of those 3 came into my life as a new girlfriend who a few months into the relationship took a blood sample from me during a very private moment. When I confronted her, she confessed up and told me everything. Her first words were, "Your hard-earned tax dollars are being put to good use," and that the group she worked for confirmed what they were looking for in my blood, the human/Anunnaki hybrid bloodline, emphasis not an original. Below is an email from this secret group of insiders I mentioned. They began to ask me point-blank questions such as the following. These are actual cut and pastes from talks I have had with them. It is not a complete surprise to any of us that you were a target of trickery, deceit, malfeasance, misuse, abuse, misinformation, and disinformation. To top it all off, you've chosen a most public life that looks like it's reflected back to you all of the fears embedded in the human soul from long ago. But, in between all of the horsebucky, you have been fed some manna. But you'll have to figure out which is which, having chosen the road you are taking. As to your blood anomaly, don't feel lonesome. There are others like you, people that don't get sick very easily, who have factors and strange enzymes that look like nanoscience out of some pulp sci-fi novel. And who live very, very long lives, and can appear and disappear at will. No big deal. What is a big deal is what you do with the hand that has been dealt to you. It is obvious you have gone on a testing spree of latent faculties and were mucked with to see what you'd do and how you'd react. If someone wanted you dead, you'd be long gone. But that is not what this is about. What this is about, for you and for all of the observers interested in your trek, is what's between your ears and in that nervous system of yours fed by the blood others want. And what you are lacking is systematically useful information, about it, about yourself, about your descent, about your own biology, about the faculties you have experienced which have led you to fear and then to new realizations. Living a public life without boundaries and self-imposed limits is like being a candy store yourself and everyone wanting to have a lick at you for the taste, as this woman appeared to be the case, until she essentially cut a piece of your dick for the blood of it, for the experience and for the perceived value of the brand of candy you are. The world knows now you have something in your blood that makes you different, even without you seriously knowing what it is. Or do you? Do you know what it is that is so sought after as confirmation of descent? If not, why not? If yes, what are you going to do about it, the information? And when are you going to stop the world and get off it, like you would a bus, for a while, to take stock of the experiences and of the questions before you? Michael continues by telling me he wants to share another letter he received from this same military-industrial complex group insider, Michael's terms. He can't reveal the name of this group, he says, but the letter is filled with knowledge that not too many people on this planet are privy to. A letter to Michael. Thursday, July 10, 2008. Dear Michael, thank you for your email today. I just received a copy of what you sent, and decided to reply with a letter directly to you. From where I'm sitting, I hear two Michaels speak out: the musical Michael, which is a musically inclined persona that's gone through a musical evolution, and the private Michael, which is the one that's gone through an awakening. Inside, both seem so closely tied that it may or may not be noticeable to you. In here, I'm going to answer to both, and hope that the real Michael, who is the blend of both worlds, understands the words I use in replying to your long note to us, and to me. You know, these two Michaels have a distinct role to play in this whole crazy thing we are all participating in. I've wondered, and had asked XXXXX more than once, just why is it that you came to us? He pointed out your reply to him when one of us asked whether or not you were sure about doing a concentration with us. XXXXX and I will be your guides, once you get underway. What I am still trying to grasp is who the group is that is in touch with you, and why did they give you approval to work with us? There are several possibilities as possible answers to those questions. But we'll save them for much later, at a time when the three of us are together somewhere, somewhen. I say these, as a kind of preface to you, because I am a wide-eyed, curious, born in Missouri show me kind of guy. But I also have enough nocive experiences to know how it all works, why, and what the rules are. Nocive is a word you're going to hear and read often from now on, so you might as well get introduced to what it means. Nocive is a mode of getting information that uses every pore and cell of your body as one huge antenna that sets up interference with fields and more fields, not just in our space/time but also in other space/time ratios. In saying all of this, please also be prepared to ditch and completely discard anything you might have learned about how the human body-mind really works, and expect to have your notions of reality, materiality, spirit, God, and what is be severely challenged. Many rebel, but I don't think you will. Something tells me you won't. Nocive is our lifeline to anything and everything and everyone else, not just Earth human, but also to other forms of life in the universe. Know-how, knowings, and knowledge we have plenty to offer you. What you do with it is what I stand ready to be surprised and glad and awed. I now know that all of us Earth humans are intricately woven into a connective tissue like weave, much more than a network, and much more like a kind of overfunction, spokes to a grand wheel at the center of which is nothing and everything, because all of us together are it. This may sound like just another construction to support the Christian view of a Christ, but it is not. Come to find out, every living form in our known universe, and from other space/time ratios, are organized like that. We've known this for over 20 years now, and keep learning how it all works, and why. Then there are those who are not from here, some of whom are already on planet's surface, some already living around where you live and elsewhere in the upper Midwest. They look like you and me, but you can tell they are not from here. The life forms with whom you are connected to and communicate with may well have representative or crew members already on the surface, in Ohio and other nearby states. This would not surprise me in the least. In fact, by what you described in your email, I would expect it. Let me then give you a capsule view of what we are about, what kind of science we practice, what I believe is the set of reasons they sent you here to us, and what my vision is of why you are here. About us. We are a germ that was planted in the soil of some minds back in the early 80s and germinated in some of us in the later years of that decade. The idea did not come from any of us, but rather from one of them. From those small beginnings, we are now still a small group, 50 plus, but we are independent of any organized worldview and control, and we are organized as a cooperative that operates by consensus of all its members. It is a handful to operate, but it keeps us out of the penetration and control of outside forces, if you know what I mean. The principle is simple: some can be fooled all of the time, all can be fooled part of the time, but not all can be fooled all of the time. In the latter years of the decade of the 90s, we had prima donnas and egomaniacs who wanted to be the stars, and it almost tore the whole group apart. But, fortunately, everyone saw things for what they were and decided as a group that we did not want that. We wanted all involved and participating according to individual plans and wishes. Our mission statement is simple: we are here to study what can be said about what nature is and how she works. The story is continuing to evolve, the whole thing is a work in progress. But we are of one mind about the mission. And we accept help from wherever and whenever it comes, provided the interests and purposes of those sources of help are similar, consonant, to what we see to be the interests of the human race, and not just the controlling forces that now direct and control all significant aspects of our evolution, science, technology, etc. We have decided to be wide-eyed about things, especially about those who are not from here. We chose not to label them as aliens, UFOnauts, and some of the other words often used to name them. We simply deal with what it, and what is, with the exception of one group, is that they are not from here. Our science. One of the things we discovered without intending to is that the universe and all other aspects of it is actually idiomaterial. Idiomaterial means that it is matter and thought and we can't tell it apart. Life physics, which is what came out of this effort, literally leads us to seek explanations on causation, not just the unification of all forces of nature, as material or standard physics does. We use a means and method of going out of the body that is technologically supported and allows a person to do that on demand. We called it extension neurosensing, or ENS for short. The theory and technology was developed by some of us. This technology showed us that the world, universe, life, not only biological life but all other forms of life, even non-biological ones, God, or what we discovered lays behind the source of all energetics in what we came to call the unum, everything that emanates and finds source at a T or thought boundary. This is not just a mathematical construction, but a place one can see, some can even visit and survive it as form. And yes, it is a source of infinite love. We have learned much from it and about how nature is and works in the last 20 or so years. We have also learned a lot about ourselves as individuals and as a species or biological kind, or simply biokind. As you get started, you are going to be literally bombarded with a whole lot to read and absorb. This will go on for the better part of a year or so. You will be expected to write essays to explain what and how you are piecing together the new picture you develop of how things really work. The focus during this first year will be on how nature works and how we human beings can master the use of what nature offers us, and all those who are like us who already know much better and much more than us at present. We will encourage you to write well and often, and hope that some of the things you come up with are publishable. Most of the other research fellows are doing just that now, some of whom have already published for all members of the XXXX group to read and comment on. You will then have the chance and opportunity to interact with them by phone and by messenger on what they said about what you wrote, and defend, modify, and update your point of view. Most everything you read will go a long way toward helping you unlearn what you learned before and what you think you know about the subject. I'm here to tell you that not all is the way it's cracked out to be. Fox Mulder, the famous FBI agent in the X-Files, had a saying on his office wall that said, "The truth is out there," under the photo of a UFO. Well, we politely disagree and state categorically that the truth is everywhere. And here you are going to learn to tap into the truth that is due you by the effort and time you put in seeking it. One thing that you'll discover as you move into this new realm of knowledge is that as you learn and evolve, you'll reach new levels of knowing and know-how, and that this comes with new responsibilities and patterns of thinking and behavior. The whole thing is really a kind of personal bootstrapping by the sweat of your brow and the mind that is married to your body. We say superposed to your body, because they both coexist in the same space/time. And you'll get to learn and use new languaging systems that involve much more than just words. An example of this you are already experiencing with your extraterrestrial contacts. You have a languaging system that allows you both to communicate with each other, both ways. Eventually, you'll also experience things in the unum itself, a realm of space/time ratios in which some of the spatial dimensions are enfolded and create initial problems to a neurosensor just beginning because it creates perceptual effects that are weird to the uninitiated and inexperienced. But that's all right. With time, wisdom comes, and from wisdom new and far more expanded understanding. In the same vein, you'll also inevitably going to move to, and ultimately grasp and understand the need of something called topological thinking, which to most of us represents the next stage in mental development for the human race on Earth. And you'll learn how to develop this in yourself, because you'll need to in order to progress along a path you'll also realize is there and open to you. Ultimately, you'll come to see that everything, literally, is physics, but not a physics that is exclusively material or exclusively noetic, thought, but both, in other words, idiomaterial. This is far beyond even sub-quantum physics. You'll come to see and realize that every cell, indeed, every elementary particle that makes your body particulate, is a black hole and a white hole at the same time, and that this merges everything you are made of with a vacuum, actually a plenum, that is full of energy that constitutes a literal ocean of it. The entire universe, which is but one of 7 superdomains, is nothing but particles that emerge from and go back to this plenum in a kind of continuous, never-ending Texas two-step dance. And you'll also discover that there are millions of possible infinities which are intimately and forever connected to what to us is infinitesimal, smaller than the smallest piece of matter. So you'll get to touch both infinity and the Planck limit, the boundary of the infinitesimal, during your journey with us. And you'll realize that the human mind is far more powerful than humankind today even fathoms. Why you were led to us. This is an interesting exercise for us, because we distinctly get it that it has to do with what your friends who are not from here want you to learn and evolve into. You see, right now, they see and sense your good heart and open, connected intention in life-giving ways. You also have music in you, but not in the sense of just playing the guitar or composing songs. You see, to create matter, you need music, or more specifically, sounds. Not just any one sound, but specific sound frequencies in combination. You'll also learn about this in the course of your concentration. And you'll learn how to use them to light and code objects out of thin air. Yes, what we spoke about before, as you said in your biography, synchronicity. And the synchronicities do not end there. With you comes to all of us new roads, avenues, and doors that you already opened for yourself. You've already crossed these doors. When these new doors you've already crossed become aware of your bootstrapping new self, new interest will arise in what you as part of all of us bring to the world. In that sense, the mission you set for yourself comes to pass, and with you as part of a far larger thing. This also translates into the entertainment as education aspect of this whole thing we are doing means. An act you learn to do and produce will speak a billion words. This will definitely get attention, and it is incontrovertible, you cannot argue with it. And the kind of music you may come to know and write and produce will be nothing like what exists today, because you will most likely learn to use the true Pythagorean scale, from which creation itself comes. Think also of the value of getting to know your flying friends by pressing the flesh, as it were. Don't discount it. Maybe being here is what they hope you will use in getting to that point with them. There is a far larger issue, many new problems and immense opportunity all blended into one phenomenon in that. But this is one phenomenon we will have to participate in very carefully and very intelligently. We are not without contacts in this respect. And much more needs to yet be done in this area. So welcome to the stage, brother. Life will never again be the same for you. Only you can determine and decide if what you've chosen was the right thing for you. I suspect strongly it is, but that is not for me to declare with strong emphasis. Funny, though, the stage onto which you've jumped in your vision or dream is not the only one where there is a small audience. This one too has an audience of a handful now. But, as the message to me was, build it and they will come, said, they will and they are coming. As all the other research fellows are finding out now, you too will realize that you'll learn by teaching others what you develop, evolve into, and become. Finally, and extremely telling by how you sign off, peace is the basis, the platform, from and through which most of what you'll learn to become comes through. Without peace, you are quite right to say that fear reigns in the human heart and mind. And that we cannot allow to happen. Our own survival and thrive as a biokind rides on it. At peace. XXXXXXXXXXPH.D. Managing Scientist. Michael says, I have been given a course of study from this secret group just as Bill Burns predicted on the History Channel show. As I stated, I have met many ETs now. The main group I have been personally contacted by in all of this is the Anunnaki, both the ones who have been here all along but hidden behind the scenes and the incoming Anunnaki as well. The Anunnaki are returning, and I believe that is why the masses are being prepared with shows such as the History Channel's Ancient Aliens show, in particular the Mission episode which dealt almost exclusively with the Anunnaki. Last but not least, I would like to share a communication I received from a military-industrial complex insider as an example of what these insiders are telling me about what they know regarding me and my contact with these orbs of light. Michael's comments are within parenthesis, Wes's note. I'm termed a subcontractor, W.S.F.M. These folks make pilotless drones for firefighting with NASA. http://ntrs.nasa.gov/archive/nasa/kc.ntrs.nasa.gov/2008008870_. 200800808509.pdf. More of Boyd Bushman's revelations are being run through several labs/tests as we speak. Michael, you will be kept up to speed. This individual is speaking about senior scientist for Lockheed Martin Boyd Bushman's testimony from David Saraida's and my film From Here to Andromeda, http://www.fromheretoandromeda.com/bio_Boyd-Bushman.html right parenthesis. You will have no doubts by now, Michael, that the intelligences associated with the orbs selected you, just as you have since become aware that the intelligence agencies know this also but are at a loss what to do about it. All are awaiting the orbs associated intelligences moves unfold via interaction with you. Part of the reason of your selection was your frame of mind. You exhibited/transmitted neither fear nor anger, painful to these orb intelligences and much magnified, to what may be imagined. Your enthusiasm to transmit your encounters is also factor. It is no coincidence that you are witnessing and recording the complete range of UK Ministry of Defence phenomena. There is motive and close/direct and mental encounters which I believe will be revealed soon. W.S.F.M. Subcontractor. Michael goes on, Then through another communication it was stated how the powers that be had tried to silence the Lake Erie UFO story and discredit me in the process. This was my exact reply. They sure did try to shut down this Lake Erie UFO story, but the fact is the actual UFO activity over Lake Erie is growing and hundreds of people are seeing and filming it. All the major media has covered the story and they have here filming these objects as well. Early May you will see this story all over the news. So yes, they did try and discredit me a few years ago, but we are well beyond that now and you can't keep a good man down. I have never given up trying to help humanity no matter what they said because I knew the truth. I will be vindicated now because this story is going worldwide, it is disclosure. And here is his actual response to Michael's reply. And out of those hundreds we have you, the one chosen by Enki to be his messenger. Wait, you're the mate Raya. And you need vindication because you don't care what anyone thinks about you. Peace. XXXX. Furthermore, Michael tells me that it has been confirmed that Marduk is a flesh and blood Anunnaki, who sits on top of the planetary Masonic Zion apparatus. Here are his own words again. So the plan that's made mention in the Illuminati Zion protocols and carried out by Baal-worshipping Illuminates is traced back to the Anunnaki. Supposedly there has been a split in the ranks of the Anunnaki and Marduk is the usurper to the throne. Mars seemingly plays a role in this. There is information leaking out now about a base in Mars, connected to Earth by a Stargate accessible from Pine Gap. And other bases. But this may suggest that the connection to Mars and Earth share different timelines. I.e., if you Stargate to Mars you may be there now but in the Earth's past. From my current purview, this Earth is a dimension in 3D density where archetypes of good/evil are allowed for choice to be made for sovereign individuals. Marduk represents a negative polarity and the Marduk Ra Mars energy has suppressed the feminine Gaia Venus principle on the planet to hasten technological evolution on this planet. DRXXXXXXXX. Action_ACIO-***. Psalm 33 degree of Zion. Pine Gap. Nth Australia. I know this insider well from my experiences, but not as a friend. I have had a few quite unpleasant encounters with him, and he will be further exposed in my following paper. Michael crossed out this person's name, but I will expose him, and thus take responsibility for its accuracy. This insider goes under a pseudonym, Dr. Roy Gordon, and is working for the NSA/ACIO. This name may sound familiar to the reader, and if not, see PFC paper number 1, the Marduk issue and the Earthbound Anunnaki, section 8. He was the one who infiltrated LPGC. 5. Some additional information from Michael on the Anunnaki topic. For those who are familiar with the Wingmakers, and have read Project Camelot's interview with James in 2008, may find some similarities with the following letter, which Michael received, but he wants to keep the sender anonymous. If the reader is not yet familiar with the Wingmakers material, I strongly recommend that you read up on it, especially the Neruda interviews and the Project Camelot interview, because the Wingmakers have a lot of significance to what is happening in the world today, and what will happen in the near future. Here is the letter that was sent to Michael, quoted in full. I have not bothered with correcting spelling and grammar errors. The letter in itself has no real significance, because I don't know who wrote it, but I include it here for future discussions, as this matter is quite controversial. I have from one of my sources, that Wingmakers material that is more recent than the Neruda interviews is a mix of truth and half-truths, and that the website, have been taken over by someone else, and that the original, genuine James is no longer in charge of the information being published. However, that is for later. 5.1 The Wingmakers/Anunnaki letter. They, Anunnaki, don't deactivate nukes, that would be the friends of the Wingmakers. The Atlanteans who avoided being enslaved by the Anunnaki by moving into another dimension of Earth where the Anunnaki can't go, so they sealed the grids between the dimensions. Just recently these Atlanteans breached the grid between the dimensions, and even though they have been sending messages to their fellow citizens, for 11,000 years now, they were mostly distorted by the HMS programming. Humans were too preoccupied with survival, until now. This era is the first time humans have had a moment to think outside the box, because the Anunnaki incarnated, left running the programs of the Anunnaki. The bloodline is of the self-created gods, but now the Atlanteans are incarnating too. The indiscretion of these human Anunnaki is infamous, so some of us may in fact have some of their DNA in us. The Anunnaki are the rulers of this universe. They are not fallen angels, they are another species completely different than angels. Obviously, we have the same creator, and the same free will. They choose to take advantage of theater technology to enslave entire planets, and ours was just one of them, but we shall prevail, because we have discovered how to turn the HMS off. To turn off the HMS, one must simply say no more, will participate in the deception of dualities, and follow through with that. No more. No more will I be part of this deception. No more will I contribute my energy to the works of deception. No more will I stand idle while others suffer. No more will I shake in my self-doubt and allow those in power to decide my fate. No longer will I be sucked into the distractions of the elite. No longer will I reserve my activism for a future time. The time is now. If you do this not only in words but deeds, you will see a space open up in your life, a sort of emptiness and stillness that lacks human embroidery or definition. This is the place in which you can stand up and radiate the oneness, equality, and truthfulness of the sovereign integral. This is the activism that will change the world. It will not be the organizations, the sects, or the militias that bring change. They cannot stand up to the elite. Only the self, the sovereign integral, operating in harmony with Earth/nature can stand up to the elite and usher in the era of transparency and expansion. Do you know of the forming of the council of these incarnating ancients/Atlanteans? And its function? I know their origins, and their purpose. It is the same as ours, to enhance and expand our own consciousness via experience in matter, energy, space, and time, and to self-create and express our unique identity as sovereign integrals from the central race. Our DNA is the same as the Anunnaki. They have deceived themselves, in their visions of self-created grandeur, and are suffering the consequences of their attempts to keep the other species of this universe in a prison, which I am sure was an exhaustive task. Our template has the advantage of being created last, using the best of the features of all previous 6 species, the 7 root races. See Helena Blavatsky's and Alice Bailey's work. Wes comment. The Anunnaki's part in the plan was no mistake. We needed this experience so that we might appreciate being who we are, which is a species with all the abilities of the creators, and each with the potential to be individual representatives of First Source's divine love. SCCUs, sovereign entities of the central race, is who we are. As first beings of light we were identical, in all but one aspect, and that was that our consciousness was individuated, so that we would reach out to each other, and discover what makes us unique, which is the highest attribute of creation, and demonstrates its presence and trust in us. We are explorers, first and foremost, and creators second. We were multidimensional being and created a world, this world, so that we could experience separation. We fragmented our soul consciousness, our true identity, from our body's consciousness, by creating a mind that was totally unaware of our connection to the central race, so that we could experience the genuine and authentic emotions of an independent individual uniquely. Using free will, we each chose what we needed to develop our own unique personality, our own identity. Over 10,000 lifetimes, we experienced all that is, and now, as you say, school is over. And now is our opportunity to demonstrate our skills as masters. We have a little time yet to practice, before the galactic alignment activates the last of our DNA that has been preserved for this time. Wes emphasis. Those who are prepared for when the full activation of the source codes are shifted on, will find themselves fully conscious of all the realities they have ever experienced, enhanced and expanded via self-creation and awareness of all our individual and collective abilities. Creation is the manifestation of matter energized. It requires light and sound. The light is what activates us, our life force, and the sound is the tone of our words, the expression of our thoughts. Collectively we are a force that manifests even the wildest dreams. Once the media gets our focused attention collectively, and manipulates the energy we give to any one expressed thought, it will manifest, even our darkest fears. Being aware of our creative abilities is what the PTB, powers that be, Wes comment have over us. These laws of creation hold true no matter if you are conscious of them or not. We, as a collective, created this world, and we have the ability to choose where we direct our energy and the ability to choose what we are creating. No one can prevent us from doing that. True sovereigns cannot be told what they can and can't do. They are self-aware of their unique abilities and value as a member of this species. Sovereigns share one common goal: global equality, which is perceived universally as wholeness. I like your Wingmaker's painting. I have a unique version of it framed and in my line of sight, given to me by its creator. I assume that you are aware that it is a self-portrait of a very real person. We share a common interest in the work of the LTO Lyricus teaching order. Wes comment. 6. The Eric Clapton connection. I mentioned earlier that Michael Lee Hill is a gifted musician. However, there is more to it than that. He claims that he is Eric Clapton's son. Before you hit the exit button on your browser, listen to this. Michael himself had no idea about the above until just recently. Let's start on this end. Michael got a letter from Bill Burns, UFO Hunters. From William J. Burns to Michael Hill. Hi, Michael. Hope you are well. I am writing the manuscript for the UFO Hunters Season 1 book now and am up to your chapter on alien contact. I was hoping I could either get on the phone with you or through email, update your information, especially as it regards your biological parents. I think it would be a real blockbuster to have an interview with you about what you learned after the episode when you spoke to your biological mom. What do you think? Best. Bill Burns. What Bill was about to announce to the world in his new book is what came out of the blood tests, when the History Channel found out about Michael's blood anomaly from the Harvard professor. They found out he was adopted, and asked Michael if he could track down his biological parents to see if the blood issue was a family genetic trait. For the first time in his life, Michael got in touch with his biological mother, and also got to meet his two half-sisters. He says it was great to meet them all, and that he should have done it sooner, but time was apparently not right until recently. The shocker came when Michael asked his mother who his biological father is, and she told him, Eric Clapton. And she had plenty of fact and information to back up that claim. Michael tells me, I don't know if I will ever get to meet Eric. I have just about as much of a clue how to contact him as any of you do. I love my father and mother who raised me so much. It's not much of an issue, but I sure would love to get to meet him and jam with him. Smiley face. I was born March 11, 1968, so I would have been conceived around June of 1967, which would make Eric around 22 then. She told me she was very upset because Eric had brought his new girlfriend to the hospital when I was born. She told me that this girl's father held a lot of power in the music industry due to my own research. I believe that girl was Alice Ormsby Gore, who was the youngest daughter of William David Formby Gore, 5th Baron Harlech, a lord in England. You see, William David Ormsby Gore has serious ties into the entertainment, Illuminati, business, and these people had already planned on Eric going solo out of Cream and hooking up with Alice and me, and my mother were not part of that plan. It is known that Eric started dating Alice Ormsby Gore in 1968. My mother did tell me Eric has a blood anomaly as well. Eric had told her he was a blue blood boy or something to that effect. My biological mother and two half-sisters have had no ET contact or UFO sightings that they recall. In early 2008, I interviewed a woman named Deborah Hunter Pitts, who claims to have been the lover of Eric Clapton and Carlos Santana. She also claims to have two sets of twins with both. You can find the interview here. http://www.illuminati-news.com/articles/75.html. Normally, when I write something, it starts a debate, so also in this case. Some people emailed me and said that it sounded plausible, while others discarded Ms. Hunter Pitts as a fraud. I got to feel her out, and I know she is not a fraud. She herself truly believes in her story, from the beginning to the end. Michael himself mentions this article to me, because he stumbled upon it, most likely when he was looking for information on his dad. He says it's a very interesting connection, and that he knows Eric was involved in some anti-government work behind the scenes. 7. Michael's meeting with a known musician, claiming to be of high order and in connection with the Arcturians. It's obvious to me that Michael is here on Earth in this incarnation for a specific purpose, out of the ordinary. He has a blood anomaly, which attracts certain ET races, both those whose imperatives are clashing with our best interests, and those who may be here to support us. Michael has another ET experience, which happened after his encounter with Marduk at the Sirius Rising Festival. Michael is telling me he has met a cosmic being, who is of the ancients. This person also told him he had had an encounter with the Arcturians. Face to face. According to Edgar Cayce, the well-known sleeping prophet, the Arcturians are the most evolved beings in the universe at this moment. If this is true or not is up for debate, but they are certainly a very positive, evolved race. This person that Michael met also knew about the blood anomaly, without having seen the UFO Hunter show. Again, to protect his sources, Michael does not want to reveal who this person is in public, but he revealed it to me. Michael's source is indeed a known musician. I have proof that Michael knows him well by now, and when you see this man on stage and in interviews, you see a very evolved being with one of the most positive energies I've ever felt. This is one of the reasons I am publishing this part of Michael's story. When you watch and listen to him, he immediately raises your vibrations. When Michael has asked him who he is, this man says, "I'm of the highest of the most high." He says further that the ancients were a very evolved race who were tricked into the human life/condition, and around 5,000 years ago their physical human incarnations were slaughtered somehow. Michael continues. These ancients decided to ascend into higher realms, and at the right time, at the end of this current cycle, now, 2012, they would reincarnate under the radar, so to speak, into this timeline as humans to awaken and bring great change and heaven on earth. This spiritual master told me that there is a bloodline connected to these ancients in human form, a royal bloodline. Michael has spent quite some time with this other musician, and out of the blue, as the two were walking the streets of Pittsburgh, he suddenly said to Michael, "Michael, you have the bloodline." Michael was caught off guard, but told his friend that indeed he had a blood anomaly, but he doesn't know what it really means. His friend replied, "It's royal blood." Michael said he doesn't know what this means either in relation to himself, but his friend just said, "I know, but you will." And again, apparently, this man had not seen the UFO Hunter show. So Michael asked him how he would know, then? His friend told him, "Michael, I can tell the minute I meet someone if they have the bloodline. That's why I am incarnated right now, to meet and greet the ancients as they awaken." He went on to say, "Michael, the last time we met was 5,000 years ago, and before that was 9,000 years ago. You have the bloodline, you are one of the ancients." Furthermore, he went on to tell Michael that long ago, before the last pole shift, many ancients were tricked into human incarnations, not being told how dark this realm had become, and they were slaughtered. These beings ascended into the higher realms and waited for the right time to begin incarnating back into this timeline again, at the end of this current cycle, to help humanity through these difficult changes. Michael then sent me a quote of something he found, which does not originate from his friend, but is related, and he was wondering if I could post it as a side note. Here goes. There was a meeting of galactic leaders as to why the Earth should be helped or not. There were a lot of quick judgments as to leaving the Earth and its inhabitants to their fates of doom and destruction. But there were also those who wanted to help, and they couldn't just come here to do it themselves the way they were, because it would violate free will, so there was a test given even to the ETS. To be born here on Earth as humans, to be in their shoes so to speak, and if they gave in and were corrupted, the earth shall be left to its destruction. If they could keep the light and awaken within this nightmare as humans, they can change things and bring about the golden age, so no free will would be breached, because it would all be done from within enemy territory, from behind enemy lines. This planet is not to fail, for it would affect all else because everything is connected. To round off, I want to quote Michael directly once again, regarding more information coming from his friend, so the reader gets it directly from the source. Michael's friend said he is responsible for the assembly of a council of people/beings who have this royal bloodline, and there is 150 seats to this council. He told me I was number 63 out of the 150, and I was introduced to number 65 and was told who number 64 is. I can't reveal their identities at this time for obvious reasons. He told me more of why these beings were slaughtered in the past. These beings came from higher realms and were somewhat tricked into human incarnation, not realizing how dark this realm had become. These beings were prophets and seers to the pharaohs of Egypt, and these beings held the keys and knowledge to multidimensional travel, and the pharaohs wanted this knowledge above all else. When the ancients refused the pharaohs this knowledge because they knew the knowledge would be misused, an order was given to slaughter the ancients. This being told me he's waiting for the scientists of this council of 150 to awaken. I asked him, so what happens when you find all 150? He responded, we're going to have a meeting. He went on to tell me he didn't know how many people of the bloodline were incarnated, could be thousands, but this council he is forming is first come or awaken first serve. 8. Afterthoughts and conclusions. Although this story may sound incredible to the reader, Michael's UFO case got quite some publicity, and no one can really explain what Michael saw over Lake Erie. As I said earlier, Michael is a musician, who needs to think of his career, but still comes out in the open with this information. I have talked to him quite extensively, and the way he comes across, there is virtually no way I think he is a hoax, or is at all lying. He appears to be a very honest and pleasant man, and his energies are very comfortable and nice. If anything needs to be added to that, I would say he is very curious by nature, and perhaps gets more involved with certain beings than is good for him, but who am I to judge? His story is very coherent, though, and ties into much of my research. Many people, at least in the UFO field, can probably accept Michael's videos as being genuine, but what about the encounters with the Anunnaki leadership? We have previously discussed in other papers that the Anunnaki are not genuinely humanoid, some of them are reptilian and reptilian hybrids, and I believe we can establish as a fact that they are also working in unison with factions of reptilians and Dracos, perhaps even the Greys. I am personally inclined to believe the Grey connection is true, but need more proof. Dr. Borden, according to himself, asked an Anunnaki in one of the Link meetings if they were working with the Greys, and the answer was a definite no. Evidence point in the opposite direction. This person, whom Michael met on the bed at the festival, shape-shifted from a gargoyle type of being to a humanoid, who could not be distinguished from any other human in a crowd. The Anunnaki are not third-density beings, they are interdimensional and capable of bending and manipulating light, something life physics terms LERM, light encoding of a reality matrix, so that things we see can have a different shape and form if we look at them from a different light perspective. Some alien life forms are extremely savvy at this. Lastly, I want to make a comment about something which concerns me, though. Michael seems to, out of curiosity maybe, connect with beings who have different, even clashing imperatives. My concern is his connection with SAALM, Dr. Roy W. Gordon, and the people at Pine Gap. If what the A.A.M.I. from the home planet Nibiru are saying about being connected with Marduk in any shape and form is true, Michael is in great danger, and so is his family and descendants, unless he is highly protected by positive forces. Michael says that he thinks Marduk is a very nice person, who is here to play the role of the bad guy as a catalyst for us, to help us wake up spiritually, that it is a sacrifice on his part. Even though this, on some level, is true, it doesn't mean that we who are aware of this should hook up with the catalyst. Our task, as I see it, is to acknowledge that a certain person is a catalyst and move on towards a higher level of consciousness. Still, I have noticed that Michael is very determined and has made his choices. It is not for me to decide what is right and wrong, because there simply are no such things in a free will universe. All is experience, and we are here to learn what we are setting ourselves out to learn, dealing with the karma we are creating, and have created in the distant past, and then move on. And whatever choices we make, it's quite a ride. Papers. A Journey Through the Multiverse. The Second Level of Learning. http://wespenry.com. Appendix A, Paper Number 2. Updates on the remarkable Michael Lee Hill case Part 2. The World Teacher of the New Era. By Wes Penra, Saturday, November 17, 2012. http://wespenry.com. Part 1. 1. How much does the government know? Let's start Part 2 with having Michael Lee Hill introduce his sightings to us. Here is a report, posted and broadcast in November 2010, and it was run by CNN 19 Action News, about the lights he had been filming much earlier. It's a 3-part video, but each section is only 2 minutes long or so, and it is a great introduction to what is to come. http://ireport.cnn.com/docs/doc-5186332. This CNN site also lets you follow links to YouTube sites, where the reader can explore this phenomenon some more if they like. As we can see, there is an abundance of reports and information regarding this. Also, here is a compilation of the best video clips and news reports of Michael's sightings, called Best of Lake Erie UFOs. Appearing all over America. Proof is in the news. HD. So far, we have concentrated our investigation on what is happening in the Lake Erie area, but wouldn't it be interesting to see if similar phenomena have happened somewhere else in the world? Or is Lake Erie unique with its dancing orbs, moving themselves into position, forming triangular structures and such? To start with, wouldn't it be nice to know how much the government know about these UFOs that they often are so quick at explaining away as military experiments, illusions, etc.? In fact, we do know a few things about how much the government knows. First of all, we know that they are aware of that the Lake Erie UFO orb phenomenon is not local for the Great Lake, and secondly, we know that they have been hiding their knowledge about these kinds of UFOs from the public for quite a long time. How do we know that? We know, because in 2006, the British Ministry of Defence, MOD, released some classified UFO files to the public, which can be viewed here, http://www.mod.uk/defense-internet/freedom-of-information/publication-scheme/search publication scheme/unidentified-day-realp-he-nom-now-apint-uk-defense-region.hdm. When we open up the link, the best thing we are perhaps expecting to find is some general UFO document that doesn't say much, just like it usually is when the government releases information of this nature. However, when opening up the first PDF file, the image hits us right in the face. It's the exact same orbs that have been sighted, photographed and filmed over Lake Erie. http://www.mod.uk/nr/RDON/7D2B11E0-8-545EA-8383580-3C00546E7520/UAP_exec_summary_dist000.pdf. Right parenthesis. So the phenomenon is not isolated only to the Great Lakes. And moreover, we can see that there has been a big cover-up in the United States regarding the orbs over Lake Erie, where so-called experts have expressed their informed opinions about that this can be, when in fact, their knowledge on the subject was there all the time. Instead, they try to make reliable witnesses look like fools. In the MOD report it says, amongst a lot of other things that are indeed noteworthy, that unidentified aerial phenomenon, UAP or UFO, exist is indisputable. Credited with the ability to hover, land, take off, accelerate to astonishing velocities and vanish. They can reportedly alter their direction of flight suddenly and clearly can exhibit aerodynamics characteristics well beyond those of any known aircraft or missile, either manned or unmanned. The conditions for the initial formation and sustaining of what are apparently buoyant charged masses of plasma, which can form, separate, merge, hover, climb, dive, and accelerate are not completely understood. Dependent on a color's temperature and aerosol density, it may be seen visually, either by itself generated plasma color, by reflected light, or silhouette by light blockage and background contrast. Occasionally and perhaps exceptionally, it seems a field with undetermined characteristics can exist between certain charged buoyant objects in loose formation. The intervening space between them forms an area, viewed as a shape, often triangular, from which the reflection of light does not occur. This is a key finding in the attribution of what have frequently been called black craft, often triangular and up to hundreds of feet in length. The UK Ministry of Defence. This report is interesting in many ways. Although these lights show up clearly in many videos now posted on YouTube, I wanted to ask Michael Lee Hill how he would describe them. He told me, "They are beautiful. Imagine a house-sized ball of light/plasma that is pulsating with what seems like the brightest, most intense multidimensional colors I have ever seen. They usually appear as a single orb. Then sometimes that orb will divide, or another second orb will appear next to the first. Sometimes a third orb will appear and then all three orbs will join into a huge triangle formation and create what seems to be one solid triangular craft." Amazingly enough, Wes, the UK Ministry of Defence actually has detailed the behavior of these orbs of plasma/light perfectly. That is indeed pretty interesting, and Michael is right. The following is what the Ministry of Defence has to say about these lights, and this is a quote from the above released information from MOD. "That unidentified aerial phenomenon, UAP or UFO, exist is indisputable. Credited with the ability to hover, land, take off, accelerate to astonishing velocities and vanish. They can reportedly alter their direction of flight suddenly and clearly can exhibit aerodynamics characteristics well beyond those of any known aircraft or missile, either manned or unmanned. The conditions for the initial formation and sustaining of what are apparently buoyant charged masses of plasma, which can form, separate, merge, hover, climb, dive, and accelerate are not completely understood. Dependent on a color's temperature and aerosol density, it may be seen visually, either by itself generated plasma color, by reflected light, or silhouette by light blockage and background contrast. Occasionally and perhaps exceptionally, it seems a field with undetermined characteristics can exist between certain charged buoyant objects in loose formation. The intervening space between them forms an area, viewed as a shape, often triangular, from which the reflection of light does not occur. This is a key finding in the attribution of what have frequently been called black craft, often triangular and up to hundreds of feet in length. The UK Ministry of Defence. So now we know that the exact same kind of UFOs have been seen by reliable witnesses, even the Coast Guard, over Lake Erie, Suffolk, Virginia, see the Terrell Copeland case, and the Great Britain, recorded by the Ministry of Defence. Now, are there even more places in the world where these specific types of UFOs have been sighted? Yes, there is. 2. The portal, the Hessdalen Lights phenomenon. Hessdalen is a central Norwegian small village located in a 9.3 miles, 15 kilometers, long valley. We find it approximately 75 miles south of a larger Norwegian city, Trondheim. Normally, it would have been quite an insignificant little village, with only 120 people living there, and few people in the world would have known it even existed. However, Hessdalen has been quite well known internationally for occasional occurrences of a sometimes ominous luminous phenomena called the Hessdalen Lights. The phenomena is monitored by the Hessdalen AMS Automatic Measurement Station, editor's note. These unusual lights have been reported in Hessdalen since at least back in the 1940s. However, there was a great increase in these sightings over the period of December 1981 until the summer of 1984, when people could apparently see the lights as often as 15 to 20 times a week. Then the amount of sightings decreased again to a relatively steady amount of 10 to 20 sightings a year, in average. The light people see is often bright white or yellow, compare the East Lake UFOs, and of unknown origin to the villagers and scientists. These lights are standing or floating above the ground level. And these are not just flashing lights, they can be seen, sometimes for hours at the time. Due to the increased sightings in the early 1980s, a research team nicknamed Project Hessdalen was initiated by Dr. Erling Strand in 1983. In 1988, the Hessdalen AMS, which basically is a research station, was built in the valley. It registers and records the appearance of these lights. Later, the EMBLA program was initiated. It brings together established scientists and students into researching these lights. Leading research institutions are Stfold University College, Norway, and the Italian National Research Council. So it's obvious that these lights can't be easily explained. In fact, these research institutions, after almost 30 years of steady research, have no clear idea of what these lights are. In Wikipedia, it gives us a number of bullet points, showing us what some scientists are guessing that it is. However, none of these explanations includes that the lights has some kind of higher consciousness, which is quite apparent to anyone who has ever seen them. Nothing artificial can make loops and patterns like that. There are those who would object and say that nothing we know of could make patterns like that, but the thing is that anyone who is objective to start with will see that these lights are moving around by consciousness. I haven't watched them on site, but it's enough to watch them on videos to be able to tell. I took a snapshot of the video, only 40 seconds into it. Where have we seen this exact formation before? That's right, over Lake Erie. No doubt about it. I snapped this one in the precise moment when the lights created the famous triangular formation. One of the remarks a professor does is, where is the power cord, where is the fuel? And he is nailing it down right to the point. These lights are not moving around with assistance from any known energy source, at least not to mainstream science. The video presentation, the portal, multimedia A3 above, is a 47 minutes long video, filled with very reliable eyewitnesses that have all seen similar things. The light phenomena are changing speed, indicating no mass by physical means, and seems to be able to take on pieces of plasma or energy from the ground while passing by. The same thing has been reported regarding the East Lake UFOs. The portal continues the presentation by saying, the phenomenon seems to radiate energy, due to the light and frequent change of color. But also, some eyewitnesses have, in connection with the sightings, felt the foul smell of sulfur. Apparently, in 2004 the scientists detected the light phenomenon several times, directly above a specific sulfur mine outside the village. So this mine must be very special, says one of the interviewed locals of Hessdalen. Although these lights have been seen hovering above the sulfur mine, it's just another theory, they add. The lights do not follow any fixed pattern, and certainly don't always hover over sulfur mines. A spectral study has been done as well of the phenomenon, and it's been shown to contain oxygen, nitrogen, and silica, which in reality means air and dust. But there were also traces of the rare element of scandium, which can only be found in Scandinavia. Scandium is an extremely hard substance which can be found in the production of Soviet hydroplanes. This material is strong enough to cut through ice caps. The same material was used in Soviet fighters, and perhaps still is. The Soviets had developed high-strength weldable aluminum alloys using scandium. Now, that is interesting, because it's exactly what has been reported in the East Lake UFO sightings. Eyewitnesses have sometimes heard, sometimes seen, or both, how the UFOs have cut through the ice cap, making a massive sound. The Norwegian research team has now, as mentioned above, expanded their staff to include college students and others, because they need much more manpower to go to the bottom with this interesting phenomenon. It should be mentioned for research purposes that this phenomenon has also been observed in combination with the aurora borealis, starting out around 9:30 in the evening, figure A11. What we're seeing in the picture is the light starting out with the glowing orb to the left, moving all the way to the right, and back all the way to the left, past the start point. The distance between the far left and far right is estimated to be 10 to 15 kilometers, which is about 5 to 7 miles. The exposure time from the camera was 30 seconds. What surprises the scientists is when they look at the spectrum at the bottom, made on purpose by the camera lens. It's continuous over the spectra, from red to violet. The way the spectrum shows up indicates there is no gas or fuel that's running the engine, if any, but it certainly looks like it could be a solid object, they say, or from plasma with high density, or molecular chemical compositions. Figure A12. Nikola Tesla. At the same time, the phenomenon is registered on radar. The interesting thing with the radar readings is that the object was only seen for a few minutes, but on the radar it registered for 4 hours. A scientist that's interviewed in the video is quite curious about the phenomenon, because it acts like a ball of fire, but it doesn't expand, and in the combustion process, it should expand according to today's scientific norms. So something must be able to hold that ball of fire together, he says, like a magnetic field, like a plasmoid, a magnetic field that traps plasma and keeps it inside the volume of the orb. They are therefore looking for the mechanism that stores the energy, and why this power source is so incredibly powerful in its intensity. And what's really curious about it is that the orb can keep this plasma trapped and in a powerful density over a long duration of time. This is mainly what the scientists are now trying to find the solution to. The scientist in the interviews ends off on a positive note, saying that this mysterious way of storing energy could be something we humans may be able to use in the future instead of petrol, gas, and nuclear power. He thinks there may be in the atmosphere, a natural storing mechanism not yet understood by science. Can this become the energy source of the future? They speculate. The idea of extracting energy from thin air, or vacuum, is not new. Already in the 1920s, Nikola Tesla had discovered enormous energy potentials in what he called the flux field, or the vacuum field, by some scientists called the plenum, in other words, the 96% dark matter and energy, which in alien term is called the KHAA, meaning breath. Today, we hear about this as zero-point energy. At this point, the narrator in the video says, there is no known way to extract this kind of energy, but suggests that this may be what we are seeing over Hessdalen. Someone, or something is able to do just that, and whatever it is, it's showing us that it's doing it. Lastly, the film producer is elaborating on that this could potentially be even bigger than that. Is Hessdalen perhaps a portal to another world, or another reality? So, what is known so far about the pulsating orbs of light UFOs showing up worldwide? The following is the conclusions from over 25 years of research and after Italian SETI scientists got involved with much more sophisticated equipment. The phenomenon is identified as a bright flying object with special characteristics making it unique to science. The phenomenon is more complex and diverse than expected, indicating more than one single kind of phenomenon. The phenomenon is sometimes made up of separate units that may depart and fly away. The speed varies from still to 8 km per second. The phenomenon changes course in speeds indicating no mass by physical means. The phenomenon seems to be able to take on pieces of plasma or energy from the ground whilst passing by. The phenomenon seems to radiate energy due to the light and frequency change of color. Many interesting spectra in the optical and radio frequency range have been detected, but more data is needed to draw proper conclusions. These scientific data are quite sensational. We are dealing with a real existing phenomenon which can be observed even though this is difficult. For a layman it would be convenient to brush these phenomena off as atmospheric balls of light, which do exist and is an atmospheric phenomenon, and therefore moving back and forth on some atmospheric current, but this is not logical when we observe how the orbs move and the typical, precise formations they are taking. It's easy to see that it's not random, and therefore most likely is something controlled by some perhaps higher intelligence. 3. Bass and the Bigelow Investigator. BASS means Bigelow Aerospace Advanced Space Studies, and sounds like a government organization. However, it is not. It is a company, owned by real estate billionaire Robert Bigelow of Las Vegas, Nevada. In late 2009, Robert Bigelow made a deal with MUFON, the Mutual UFOs Network, which is officially a non-profit organization which investigates UFO sightings. It is one of the largest and oldest UFO organizations in the United States. Bigelow has promised to provide MUFON with whatever they need to find actual hardcore proof of the existence of alien spacecraft, and of course, alien beings. This means, foremost, alien debris of crashed UFOs etc. For many UFO enthusiasts, this is met with both positive and negative responses. Positive in the sense that MUFON now have the funding they need to expand their investigations, and negative in the sense that some feel that MUFON is now owned by Bigelow. And MUFON has been working as an independent research group, allegedly. However, the above debate is probably not even what is the most relevant. In a policy from the U.S. Department of Transportation, Federal Aviation Administration, Order Joe 7110.65U with effective date, February 9, 2012, it says under Section 8. Unidentified Flying Object, UFO, Reports. 9-8-1. General. A. Persons wanting to report UFO/unexplained phenomena activity should contact a UFO/unexplained phenomena reporting data collection center, such as Bigelow Aerospace Advanced Space Studies, BASS, voice, 1-877-979-7444 or email, reporting@bass.org, the National UFO Reporting Center, etc. B. If concern is expressed that life or property might be endangered, report the activity to the local law enforcement department. This should be quite concerning for the serious UFO enthusiast and researcher, because it shows a definite link between Robert Bigelow's BASS and the federal government. So the FAA, as of February 2012, wants us to report UFO sightings to a private company, under the disguise of a very government-sounding name, similar to the Federal Reserve, which is not federal at all, but privately owned by international bankers, such as the Rothschilds and the Rockefellers. And of course, if we follow the trail, we find MUFON on the other side, collecting funds from Bigelow, who has his government connection. So, privacy and integrity is therefore most likely to go out the window, although I'm sure MUFON hasn't been working in public interest for many, many years. This is all, as usual, just the tiniest tip of the iceberg. So, how does Robert Bigelow come into the picture in regards to the East Lake UFOs, which is the storyline for this paper? Well, in the midst of all happenings in Michael Lee Hill's life, he was contacted by investigator Gary Hernandez, who said he was looking into the Lake Erie phenomenon. In August of 2010, Hernandez sent a message on Michael's Facebook page, inquiring about what Michael knew about the East Lake UFOs. In short, they communicated some back and forth, and Michael was sharing some information with the investigator, because he wanted the story to come out in the open as much, and as soon as possible. In November, curiously enough, investigator Hernandez, in a Facebook message I have in my possession, told Michael there were certain things he couldn't tell him due to the nature of a contract Hernandez had signed. He added, "I don't want to disappear now," indicating that he was at great risk if he told Michael about classified things. A few days after that he wrote, "In regards to BASS, I am the only investigator who has been revealed through the Isles of Capri, FLA, Niagara Falls, Canada, the Lake Erie incident and the skinwalkerranch.org website was emphasis under who's sick involved. It just so happened that I was an aggressive investigator and was written about often. If the report is viewed by the screeners I will be identified. I would like to speak about it, but we must keep BASS out of it, for it is a keyword in the system." Apparently, Hernandez wanted to keep the Skinwalker Ranch in low profile as well, breaking up the web address in several parts, See bold emphasis above. We will discuss that place a little bit as well in a moment, but first, let's see what he meant when he was telling Michael about being the aggressive investigator. Let's back up a little bit. Eugene Ehrlich of Cleveland, Ohio, had filmed some UFOs over Lake Erie, and the media got involved in the case, just like it had with Michael Lee Hill. So MUFON thought they should get involved as well, and sent an investigator named Tom Wordman to the sighting spot. MUFON's conclusion over what they saw was planet Venus, but they changed their minds, saying that what Ehrlich had filmed was aircraft coming in and out over Lake Erie from Hopkins Cleveland International Airport. Investigator Wordman allegedly had spoken to traffic controllers at the airport, but no references or names were disclosed. This event has been documented by Lon Strickler on his blogspot. Strickler continues to report that both Ehrlich and Hill simultaneously had filmed the same UFO event over the lake, without any knowledge of each other. Both were then presenting their material on the Alien Agenda radio show. A few days later, on April 8, 2010, Ehrlich was called by someone who introduced himself as an investigator from Bass, something which was later confirmed as being correct. The caller introduced himself, and although Strickler doesn't mention him by name, the investigator was Gary Hernandez. Hernandez then demanded that Ehrlich gave him the exact coordinates where the sighting had taken place, and when Ehrlich started questioning the caller, Hernandez told him that these lights were not of terrestrial origin, but alien, and that there was big money involved in trying to get this technology. Ehrlich then hung up the phone. Ehrlich didn't have any particular problem, allegedly, to talk to MUFON or some other UFO investigative organization, but like Strickler says, when someone calls, being quite aggressive, and demanding information from the witness, it is indeed time to question the motives of the caller. So, Hernandez is calling both Ehrlich and Hill to investigate the sighting, and he reveals to the first that this is alien technology that we are seeing in the skies above the lake, and if he is correct, in other parts of the world, too, and that there is a lot of money invested in this. And indeed, although he seems to have had more cold feet when talking to Michael, in the beginning of their communication he hinted at the same thing, saying, and I quote, "In regards to the lights over Lake Erie, I am not absolutely convinced that they are coming from conventional aircraft. As an investigator I must be completely objective with any UFO reports which has had multiple witnesses. BAS employees are paid professionals, all the investigators are formal law enforcement detectives who have a higher level set of skills and experience. MUFON takes anyone who pays the money and passes the test and works for free. That does not make them a credible source for information for me to accept their conclusion." However, as time went by and he apparently got more confident with Michael, he told Michael that they knew what the Lake Erie phenomenon is, because it is the exact thing that is happening in Hessdalen, Norway. But not only there, these objects were also flying over Utah Skinwalker Ranch, which is owned by Robert Bigelow. He said that his conclusion regarding these orbs is not that they are what people think and expect, which would be physical metal, nuts and bolts UFOs, as he put it, but instead more like portals and have to do with time travel. These were Hernandez's own words, according to Michael Lee Hill. The results from years of study at the Skinwalker Ranch was released in a book called Hunt for the Skinwalker, by Carl May, Kelleher and George Knapp 15. I need to add the synopsis of the book here, as presented at Amazon.com. It's pretty interesting. The author of the controversial bestseller Brain Trust brings his scientific expertise to the chilling true story of unexplained phenomena on Utah's Skinwalker Ranch and challenges us with a new vision of reality. For more than 50 years, the bizarre events at a remote Utah ranch have ranged from the perplexing to the wholly terrifying. Vanishing and mutilated cattle, unidentified flying objects, the appearance of huge, otherworldly creatures, invisible objects emitting magnetic fields with the power to spark a cattle stampede, flying orbs of light with dazzling maneuverability and lethal consequences. For one family, life on the Skinwalker Ranch had become a life under siege by an unknown enemy or enemies. Nothing else could explain the horrors that surrounded them, perhaps science could. Leading a first-class team of research scientists on a disturbing odyssey into the unknown, Colm Kelleher spent hundreds of days and nights on the Skinwalker property and experienced firsthand many of its haunting mysteries. With investigative reporter George Knapp the only journalist allowed to witness and document the team's work, Kelleher chronicles in superb detail the spectacular happenings the team observed personally, and the theories of modern physics behind the phenomena. Far from the coldly detached findings one might expect, their conclusions are utterly hair-raising in their implications. Opening a door to the unseen world around us, Hunt for the Skinwalker is a clarion call to expand our vision far beyond what we know. And this place is owned by billionaire Robert Bigelow. Can anybody sense a bigger story here? For those who are interested, and I'm sure most of us are, there is an interview on YouTube with the above authors.
On the line from Las Vegas, Nevada, we have a couple of very interesting men. George Knapp, who heads the High Team. He's an investigative reporter for KLAS-TV out there, Channel 8, the CBS affiliate. And also we have an interesting fellow who now lives in California, but did live in Las Vegas for several years, Dr. Colm Kelleher. And he headed NIDS, the National Institute of Discovery Sciences, at one time. They've written a book, a very interesting read, called Hunt for the Skinwalker. And so let's go ahead and talk to these two. First of all, let's talk to George. George Knapp, Mandalay Bay last night had a very interesting sign. You were there, a star, right there on the Las Vegas Strip for the book signing last night. I guess we can say you have arrived.
Yeah, that's a kick, isn't it? I think that's the only chance I'm going to get up on a marquee.
This is kind of a new experience for you, right?
It is a new experience. It's a little bit unsettling, you know, as a journalist. Jerry, you can relate to this. You feel a little bit uncomfortable in going out hawking some wares, so to speak. But Colm Kelleher and I are pretty proud of the work that we've done on this book. And it's not perfect by any means, but we think we've advanced the cause.
Yeah, we're going to talk about Hunt for the Skinwalker in detail here in a minute, and also maybe you can put Dr. Kelleher on before it's over as well. You know, this is an interesting avenue. I remember the series you did for KLAS-TV on this. I had no idea you were doing a book.
Well, actually, I had written a couple of articles for a Las Vegas weekly newspaper back at the end of 2002, and the story had really been driving me crazy because Dr. Kelleher and my other friends from NIDS had been cluing me in on this stuff for a number of years, with the understanding that I would not be able to make it public in any way until they gave me permission. Well, I kept bugging them for some time, and eventually in the end of 2002, they allowed me to go ahead and proceed with those articles for the primary reason of seeing what kind of a reaction it generated and whether we could get some leads on additional hotspots, paranormal hotspots around the country. And there was so much interest in those two articles that I tried to go back to NIDS and see if we could do some other things. At the time, they weren't interested in that because they were worried about intrusion at the Skinwalker Ranch property by outsiders. Eventually, though, I wore them down, and the Colm and I started working on the book.
Yeah, why don't you tell our audience a little bit about this whole situation up there in Utah? It's a pretty far out story, but it's at the same time, as you say, it's one of the better paranormal tales I've heard, and evidently you were there, and you waited around there in the chair one time waiting for this thing and got a mosquito bite, and that was about it.
Yeah, I'll tell you that story in a second. First, the overview about the ranch. This is a 480-acre picturesque property in northeastern Utah, and it's idyllic. It's a beautiful setting. It looks like a great place to have a ranch, except for its long history of paranormal activity. And in the book, we sort of, like a laundry list of strange things, strange phenomena, including UFOs of a variety of different kinds, Bigfoot sightings, poltergeist-type activity, cattle mutilation, weird animals, everything you can name, all wrapped up in one place. Now, this part of northeastern Utah, the Uinta Basin, has been the site of a phenomenal amount of UFO activity for the past 50, 60 years, and perhaps even longer than that. However, the epicenter of the basin activity seems to be this property. The Ute tribe, which lives just directly adjacent to the property and has been there for hundreds of years, refers to this particular ranch as a place where it's the path of the skinwalker, they call it, meaning that an evil skinwalker, a shape-shifting witch of some sort, lives on that property, and they advise their tribal members to stay away from it as a result.
Now the Indians, they seem to think it was probably a medicine man gone berserk or something.
Well, yeah, like I said, skinwalker being an evil witch or a shapeshifter, but I think that's sort of the blanket explanation, the umbrella explanation that the tribe has developed over the years for all the strange, the wide variety of strange things that they have seen occur on that particular property, and sort of their blanket explanation for it. We know it now as a lot of different kinds of paranormal activity. I'm sure that there is enough of different kinds of paranormal activity that we're going to get all kinds of people heat from all sorts of different directions. The ghost people won't like the UFO people, and the UFO people hate the Bigfoot people, and they're not going to be comfortable all being thrown into the same pot. But that just is where the evidence led us.
Yeah, you mentioned that, and over the years, I've come to the conclusion that there might be a connection between Bigfoot legends and UFOs.
Well, that's sort of where the book heads, is that we look at what the possible explanations that would encompass all this different kind of activities would be. You know, normally you and I, guys like you and I, Jerry, we kick around ideas about UFOs and we think of extraterrestrials or the traditional space aliens. That's really not an explanation that works for all the stuff that we saw here at the ranch. There certainly were UFOs, but we saw no indication that they really came from some other planet. They're definitely alien, but where they're from, we're not sure.
Now, what did you actually see while you were up there? You've been up there several times.
I've been up there 4 different times. Mostly, I went up to tag along with Dr. Kelleher and the other NIDS team members, and to interview them, for them to show me where all the events had occurred, to document what I could, hopefully to go out on these night watches that characterize the works of NIDS up there over several years, and to see what we could see. Now, by the time I got up there, which my first visit was in 2002, the activity had peaked. In fact, the activity probably peaked in 1997, a couple of years after NIDS had been there. But perhaps you should probably talk to Dr. Kelleher about that.
Yeah, I want to find out, and I will talk to him about maybe his explanation of why it ceased. It's kind of interesting. I also find it seems kind of interesting that NIDS would be that involved in it. They bought the property, didn't they?
They sure did. There was a single, the ranch family that had been there for a couple of years, finally, out of desperation, allowed a news reporter to do a story about it. The story was picked up on Associated Press and made its way here to Las Vegas. So Robert Bigelow, the businessman that's from Las Vegas, saw the story, got his team together, flew up to Utah, met with the rancher, and pretty much on the spot bought the property, and moved his team of scientists where they spent the next 7 years studying every inch of the property, running down every lead, investigating every paranormal activity, every cattle mutilation, every incident, interviewing everyone who lived in the area. It's really an unprecedented scientific study because, UFOs, you look at UFOs, they're here 1 minute, they're a light in the sky, and they're gone, and you don't see them in the same area again. This is an area that had multiple kinds of paranormal activity over a long period of time, and it presented a unique opportunity for scientists to do some real hard work. And Mr. Bigelow and NIDS, that's exactly what they did. And for a 7-year period, they in essence had a cone of silence over the property, and were not releasing information about what they found for some very logical and reasonable reasons, is because they really didn't know what the heck they had.
I remember at one time there was evidently a lot of concern that maybe a lot of people would go up there and disturb whatever was happening. I think you even cautioned it in one of those articles for the weekly newspaper.
There had been a number of intrusions over the years. I mean, the story about the ranch had gotten out. The real names of the ranch family had gotten out. NIDS was doing its best to try to protect the family from any further intrusions. And in addition, there's really some questions about the interactive nature of this phenomena. Whatever this thing was, it's some kind of an intelligence. It seemed to have an interactive relationship with the people on the ranch and with the researchers, and it seemed to at times anticipate what people on the ranch would do. And so, naturally, a scientist doesn't want intrusions by a lot of uninvited guests who might upset that balance, whatever that balance is, at a time when everyone was working so hard to try to figure out what this thing was. So, yeah, we didn't want a lot of people running around up there. They've still done it to some extent. There are still intrusions here and there over the years. A lot of people who camp out outside of the property to see what they can see. But I think they probably get a little bit tired of it because, A, the activity has decreased so much over the past couple of years, and B, even from the best vantage point, they...
But as far as Michael Lee Hill goes, the Bigelow part of the story doesn't end here. After Hernandez had contacted Ehrlich, and Hill as well, he got a phone call from the Alien Agenda radio program. He told Michael. The caller asked Hernandez, "Why are you contacting Lake Erie UFO witnesses? Didn't MUFON already state case closed, that they were just airplanes?" The conclusion I must come to, in regards to what we have discussed in this section, is that MUFON, Robert Bigelow, and the U.S. government are working together to cover up the real agenda behind investigating the Lake Erie phenomenon, which in fact is worldwide. Their real agenda, on a lower top level of the shadow government, is again to research nanotechnology, because that's where the future is. Like one of my sources once said, those who control the nano world are in control of the universe. This is big, much bigger than people think. The biggest investments will be in the smallest of worlds, the super sub-quantum, or the nano world. And those who know what they are doing, and why, will achieve what they want, using any means to get it. Those who have read this whole series of papers, of which this is the